Hello guys and welcome back to another tutorial. For this tutorial we're going to be learning how you can do the attack from behind of the character. So it's basically there's a character here and your player is going to be here, so you're going to kill the player from behind. And the first thing I'm gonna show you what I have on my blueprint, my character blueprint, before I can begin the tutorial. Here I have a lot of comments and here I have my default code. You don't need to worry about these. And yeah, on the BP bot, I basically duplicated this BP third person character. And I have cleared all the code that was in here inside of this event graph here. And yeah, you can delete like practically all the code that is inside here. And you can change the character mesh if you want to. So I have set my skeleton mesh different from my character, which is this one right here. So they are different. And if you want, you can remove the camera as well, but it's not needed. And make sure your character is falling, because the last time I did it, the bot wasn't falling. So to make sure, you can just spot the bot here, so drag and drop and press on play on editor. And as you can see, the bot the bot fell. So yeah, you gotta check this out. So basically what you're gonna do, you're gonna duplicate this third person character. Basically you're gonna duplicate your character's blueprint like this, copy and paste, and delete all this code here, as I did here. I have no code here on the event graph. And you're also gonna delete the variables here if you want to. And you're also, the second thing that you're gonna do, you're going to duplicate your animation blueprint. So what I've done, I just copy and paste it here. So here's my duplicated animation blueprint. So we're going to have separate animation blueprints, one for our character and one for the bot. So for the bot, you don't need to have too much things here. Going to the animation graph, here's what I have. And yeah, you don't need too much code, it's just the default code. Don't need to worry about the code that is inside of the character, the animation blueprint of the bot. Inside my character's animation blueprint, what I have is this. It's just the default code that comes by default. So I guess we can start the tutorial from now. The first thing that we're going to do, we're going to spawn our bot into the world. So we're going to drag and drop our bot character blueprint, but the blueprint class, and we're going to drag and drop it to the world as I did here. And we're gonna make sure that it is on the ground. I have made some piles of blocks here, dynamic blocks, that I'm going to show you later how it's going to work. So we're going to make sure your bot is in the world. And the second thing, we're going to go to your character's blueprint. You're going to have this begin play event here. If you don't have it, just right click, type event begin play, and you're gonna have this code here. And you can also get the event tick. So here we're going to get the reference of the bot. So drag off this and get actor of a class. This node is going to get the actor that whatever actor we're going to select in here. So for example, my bot's character blueprint is going to be, well, the name that I've gave it to be, it's BP bot, the first one here. For you, it might be different here because you probably named it different than mine. So, so what this is going to do is going to basically get the reference of this actor that is in the world. So it's going to basically get the reference specifically of this bot here. So let's go back to our third person character, and out of the return value is the return value that we're going to get the reference of. So we're going to promote the variable, and we're going to name this variable to be bot ref. That means that stands for bot reference. And that's basically it. Let's compile, save. And now we have the reference of our bot, and we can get the mesh of it. We can do many things. That's why it's important to have this. All right. So for starting this code, I want to have a box collision, which is going to be behind of the character, behind of the bot character. Let's go to our bot character. And here on components, we're going to add one and type here collision. And we're going to choose box collision. I think it's more appropriate for my case, but you can choose the sphere collision, no problem. Whatever it's better for you. And we're going to name this box to be, I don't know, box, let's put it trigger box. Or maybe, yeah, just trigger box. And then you can drag and drop this trigger bots to be attached to the mesh. And we're going to reset the location values here. Now we're going to select, we're going to place this box behind the character. All right, I guess that's going to work. And now scrolling down here, make sure you select here on the on component begin overlap. You can press on this plus sign here and go back to the trigger box and press on the plus sign on the component and overlap. So whenever our player overlaps this box collision here, then this value is going to change depending on when the player has contacted with the box. We can print a string to see how this looks like. So we're going to drag and drop other actor, which is our player reference on here. And we're going to just get the display name to see if it's working. So I'm going to save and press on play here. For this to be more understandable, I'm going to disable this option here, hidden in game, so you can see the box collision in the world. Let's try again. There I see the box collision in the world. So if I step in, then as you can see on the top left corner, I get a BP third person character player. That means that it identified my character, and that's a good sign. So we're going to create a variable inside the third person character player, which is going to be Boolean, and it's going to be named can stealth ? And then we're going to compile here. Let's go back to the PP bot, and we're going to create a reference for our player character. So let's cast, actually let's get the begin play first. We're going to cast to third person character, and be sure to select the right name. As I have multiples, I have to pay attention a lot on those names here, because otherwise it's not going to work if I select the wrong one. So the right one, I'm sure it is the third person character, the first one. And on object here, we're going to get player character. And we're going to promote this to a variable and call this player character ref, the reference of the player character. And then we're going to compile, save, and drag and drop the player character reference here. Get it. And we're going to set can stealth. So this is going to turn to true. This is going to make us to turn this variable to true inside our character's blueprint of our player, inside our player's character blueprint. So we're going to enable this to be true. So whenever our character steps into this box collision here, so that means that we're going to be able to kill the bot, right? And that's going to turn this variable to true, and we're going to use this value later. Now, what I want to do, I want to get other actor, and I want to make sure that we get our player reference in here, so we get a true or false value. So I'm going to delete this and get a branch. And whenever objects that enter on this box collision here, if it matches with our player character, then we're going to turn this variable to true. So this is going to avoid other players to step into the box collision, and it's not going to work for them. It's only going to work for the player character of our main character. It's going to work only for this one. So if you want to make that, so you can make this code. So what I want to do here on after true, I want to enable this variable. So now we can stealth when we are behind the player in a short distance. Now we're going to duplicate this, actually everything, and copy it here. And when we leave the box collision, then this code is going to be executed. So it's going to disable. So whenever we join the capsule, whenever we enter in contact with this box collision here, so we are able to stealth. We are able to kill the player from behind. Not the player, sorry, the bot. All right, that's pretty much what you have to do here on the event graph. Now knowing that when we can stealth, which we have to be behind the bot to be killing it, we can use this variable here for checking if our player is really behind the bot. Now we can get a branch here, and whenever we type F, the F key, we want to kill the bot if the player is behind the bot. Now the next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to meshes, and I'm gonna get my knife. I think it's hand pivot. I think it's this one right here. I'm going to drag and drop it to my player's mesh, and be sure it is attached to my mesh of my character's mesh. And I want to name this to be knife, just knife. Now I already have created sockets here for the knife, so if I type here knife, I have it. But if you don't know how to create one, I can show you really quickly how you can do that. So double click on your skeleton mesh and go to our skeleton and scroll down until you find the option of hand R. This option here, hand R. And here on the bone, you can right click and add a socket. So you can name the socket whatever you like, for example, knife socket, for example. And then you can right click here, add preview asset, and type knife. And then you're going to choose your knife, for example, like this. And you can choose the location and rotation to whatever you like, whatever you find it better. And I'm going to delete the socket because I already have two. In some animations, you might need to have two sockets, two hand positions of the knife, for example. If the character is going to stab the player holding his hand on the top here. And there are other animations that you need to have the rotation of the knife rotated to the opposite side, because you might have different animations, so you might have different rotations for the knife. So that's why I added two here. And that's everything I gotta do here. So let's go back to our BP third person character. So let's go back to our viewport. As you can see, the knife is now appearing. I think it's inside the character. But we can reset the location and rotation. Now we can attach our knife to the socket that we've created. In my case, it's reversed. Knife reversed, that's the name of my socket. And as you can see, it's very good. The rotation and location values are very good. It's good to go. And you need to compile, save here. And I'm going to let this by default. I'm going to turn off the visibility for all the meshes and weapons that I attach to the character. To off, I'm going to turn off the visibility because I want to turn them on when I'm ready to attack, just for the purpose of the tutorial, of course. And going back to the event graph, what I want to do, if I can stealth, I can turn on the visibility of the knife. So set visibility to on. So by checking this option here, you can turn on the visibility. So to see if it's working, we can compile, save, and test it in the world. So as you can see here, I'm inside the box collision. If I press F, I can pick up my weapon. I have my weapon in my hands. And if I'm not near the box collision, I press F and nothing happens because I'm not behind the character. So that's basically how it works. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to play a montage. And this montage, we're going to need two montages, which one is for the character, the attacker, and the other montage is for the victim. So I have created already a montage, but if you want, you can just right click on the animation and create an animation montage. Very quick. And if I double click on this, as you can see, this is animation for the attacker. And I also have the animation for the victim, which is this one. So I'm going to play montage. And I'm going to collapse this to a macro. So you're going to right click on the play montage and collapse it to a macro. I'm not going to do this because I already have my macro here. So I'm going to double click on this and paste it here. Grab the mesh. And as you can see, I have left some comments that I'm going to explain a little later how everything is going to work. And on this first animation play montage, on this first play montage node, I'm going to drag and drop it to the inputs. And this is going to be the victim's. This is going to be the victim's play montage animation. We're going to play the victim montage on this node here. So I'm going to just write it victim anim montage. And how are we going to access the mesh of the victim? I want to access this mesh here, the character mesh of the victim. So how we can do that? So let's go back to our third person character. And here on the bot reference, we're going to drag and drop it. And we're going to get the mesh. You can click on any function like this, and delete this. You're going to get the mesh here. Drag and drop the mesh, this skeleton mesh component. And there we go. And here on the inputs, I'm going to change the name to be victim montage, like so. And I also want to play the montage for my character, for my player character. So I want to drag off this and get a sequence and duplicate this play montage node. Out of that one, I'm going to play another animation montage. And I'm going to drag and drop the mesh. And on here, the drag and drop the montage to play on here, on the inputs. I'm going to name this to be player montage. So that way you can organize things better. So now we're going to drag and drop our macro. And here we're going to select the victim montage and the player montage. So the victim montage, of course, is this one here. So I'm going to browse to the asset. And I'm going to select it here. Now I'm going to select the player montage and connect it. Now let's see if it's working. So we're going to turn off the visibility of knife. We're going to turn, we have some problems because of the knife collision. So we're going to select the knife here. And here on the collision presets, we're going to choose no collision. Compile, save, and test it out again. There we go. But as you can see, if I go here inside this box collision and my character is rotated to the other side, if I press F, then the animations, the rotation and the location of the character, of my character, is not going to be appropriate for this. This is going to be a bug. So to fix that, to fix the location and rotation of the player, we can firstly we can go to the BP bot and we can drag and drop this mesh here. For example, you can drag and drop this mesh to the BP bot. Yeah, attach to the mesh. So here on animation mode, we're going to select use animation asset. Now we're going to select our animation. And also for the bot. There we go. So when we click on compile, as you can see, the distance is very good. So we can stop this will be playing. And let's say, for example, .3 seconds, .4. You can edit the initial position of the animation being played. So I think that's a good distance for the player character. I'm going to turn off the visibility of this mesh here. And also make sure it doesn't have any collision. But if you have this option here, hidden in game, you can check that on and enable the visibility back. So it's not going to appear in the world. So as we have the location, the perfect location of where the character needs to be at, for us to be able to sync perfectly the animation of the victim and the player, we're going to use the animation of this mesh here, the animation of rotation and location inside our third-person character. So how are we going to be able to access the location of this character that is perfectly aligned and attached, and the perfect location to execute the animations perfectly fine, perfectly synced? We can go to the event graph, and here we can get our bot reference, and we're going to get our SM. We're going to have type the exact name that is in here. So I'm just going to copy the name, And I'm going to get out of this and scroll down. You can get any of these functions here. So we're going to drag, we're going to get the mesh. And with this reference here, we can get the current world transform. Actually, in this case, I only need the location of the bot, of the mesh that is behind the bot. So, but if in your case you need the character to be rotated at this, then you're going to get the world rotation as well. But I think in my case I don't need it. I only need this world location. So I'm going to set world location, and I'm going to drag and drop the capsule, my capsule component, the capsule component of the player. And I'm going to drag and drop the return value here. And I'll connect this out of this pin here, connect it to here, to set the world location. So what this is basically doing is getting the location of this mesh that is inside here. It's invisible for us when you play the game, of course. So it's getting the location of this bot, of this mesh behind the bot, and getting this information and putting it for us to be aligned with the animation. So it's going to drag, so it's going to get the location of the mesh and set it to be our location, the location of our player. So now let's compile, save, and let's see if it's working. Yeah, we need the rotation, of course. So we're going to drag out of, we can delete this get world location and get transform. Get world transform. So we're going to set world transform. We're going to split the structure pin. Compile, save. And let's be here on the box collision. If I press F, as you can see, my character rotates the wrong side. So what I'm going to do, I want to split the rotation, split this structure pin here again. I'm going to connect the X row and the Y pitch, but for the Z yaw, which controls the Z yaw axis of the character, I'm going to add +90, which is going to fix our issue that we have. So I'm going to compile, save, and press play. So now when I aim to this side here, the character is going to perfectly be placed in the right direction, aligning with the synchronization of where the character needs to be to perfectly play the animation of both characters. So regardless of the location that the character is at of my player, I press F here, then I'm able to kill him. As you can see, he's standing up after I kill it. I don't want that. I want the character to be simulated physics. I want to simulate the physics of the character when my player stab him with the knife. So to do that, I want to add a montage notify window here on the victim animation montage. Wait, here on the event graph and the victim animation montage, I'm going to browse to the asset. And here, as you can see, I have added a animation notify state montage notify window. So if you want, you can add one here. And you can set your starting and end points. So I've set mine to be here. Well, actually, it's not the victim montage. I need to go to the player montage. So when my character, this is my player animation montage of him attacking the bot. So as you can see, pay attention to the hand. When my character stabs the bot, this endpoint and start point are right here. So they're going to be executed. Whatever is inside the notify end, this is the player animation montage. So whatever is inside on this on notify end here is going to be executed. So in this part of on this time frame where the character stabs, this code here is going to be executed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set simulate physics of the bot. So we're going to get the mesh of the bot by doing that. For doing that, we're going to get the bot reference and get mesh and connect it to the target. And we're going to take this option on, simulate. So when we compile, try again. When we actually stab the bot, then the bot is going to fall. I think it's more realistic like this. So you can change this whenever time you want, the location of the player, the location of where the player is going to be when we execute this animation. You can also play the camera shake. The epic center, we're going to get the actor location. And you're going to type some values here. And you can also do the blood effect to make the character to bleed out. So I have this Niagara system. I'm going to drag and drop to the bot. I'm going to drag and drop to the mesh and going to attach it to the mesh, the main mesh of the bot. And I want to attach it to the socket of the neck, the bone of the neck. So I'm going to type here neck and attach it. And also I want to reset the location and rotation values. And now the character is going to be bleeding after we attack him. And I want to disable the auto activate on the loop bleeding GPU. And I want to disable this option here called auto activate. So I'm going to compile, save, and we're going to enable these particles to be visible when we hit the character. So I'm going to drag off here and set active. And I'm going to get the reference of the bot, get the blood, get FX, get the bleeding loop effect. So we're going to get this FX loop bleeding GPU, and we're going to drag and drop to the target. So on this new active value here, we're going to turn this on. So whenever we attack the character, then the character is going to start bleeding. For some reason, the character is not being physically simulated. Now I want to disable the invisible capsule component from the victim. So here on uncompleted, I'm going to set collision enabled. And then I'm going to grab the bot reference and get capsule component. Now out of this execution pin here, we're going to drag it to the outputs, and we're going to name this, so we're going to name this to be through, or any name that you would like. Now we finished for the knife. Now we're going to go for the bat. Now for the bat, we're going to press the G so we can hit the bot with the bat. So I'm going to basically copy all this, paste it here. delete the knife, and let's add the bat mesh that I have here. Drag and drop it to the mesh of the character. Now make sure it is attached to the mesh. And on the parrot socket, it can be the knife. And let's make sure it doesn't have collision. So on the collision preset has to be no collision. Now here on the event graph, we can drag and drop the ASCII bat to the target and compile. Save. Now drag and drop out of the ASCII bat and set collision enabled. And choose here to be collision enabled query and physics. Now compile, save, and let's test it out. So when you press G, see, change the input key here. When press G, we have to change the victim montage. So now it's bat. Oh, it's the wrong animation. So as you can see, it worked. Now what I want to do, I want to simulate the physics. I'm going to drag and drop the bot reference, get the mesh, and I'm going to add force at the location. The model name is going to be neck underline 01. I'm going to get war to location and plug that into a location. Now what I want to do, I want to apply the force. So when we hit with the bat, the character is going to, the bot character is going to be launched forward and then left. But this is actually here. File save. And for that, we're going to get actor forward vector and get actor right vector. We're going to multiply these two values here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits of 0 and 1 digit of 2. I'm going to type the same value for the get actor right vector. This one here, but I'm going to add it negative. So instead of adding the force for the character going to the right side, I'm going to add the force for the character to go for the left side. I'm going to sum all those values up like this. And I'm going to multiply it a little bit more so you can get a stronger effect. But of course, it's going to depend on what value you typed here. When you compile, save, and press play again. If I press G, then the character is going to be launched with this force. Let's try again. There we go. I think there's too much force, so I'm going to type 3 here. Yeah, I think that's better. So these blocks, I placed these blocks here for this purpose, so we can get the bot to be hit along those boxes there. For some reason, my character does not collide with the other mesh. I think that's because of the collision settings. Let's go to the skeletal mesh. And on the clothing or asset details, I don't have a physics asset here, so be sure to select your on. I'm going to select mine. It's ASCII mannequin physics asset. I think it's the default. So I'm gonna try again. And oof. Okay. So I can now be able to interact with the body. So I can push the body to the sides in the ground. It's very cool. And the character also is splitting. All right. So if you want to add more force, you can type here, for example, I don't know, 13 or 14. And that's going to add a lot of force. The character is going to glitch. So you can add a value between like, I don't know, 2 and 4 or 8. Or you can also reduce these values here and see which one works better for you. And you can also choose which bone is going to be affected. For example, mine is neck. You can also choose legs. For example, let's choose foot L. So it's going to add the impulse for the foot L, for the left foot. So now let's do the unarmed version. So for that, I'm going to get the H key. And for the input key, I'm going to change it to H. And I'm going to connect, duplicate this branch here. And connect the pressed to here. And I'm going to get duplicate the macro. We're going to use a lot. And let me search for the hand unarmed behind. This is the attacker, player montage. There we go. So I think that's going to be all you need for the unarmed, because we're going to use our hands, so we don't need any weapon. So when you press and play here, if I press the H, let's actually disable the ASCII pet, disable the visibility. So I'm going to press H. Let's see on slow motion what's going to happen. That's very cool. We're going to right click. We're going to use the right click, right mouse button, and we're going to create a variable called isAiming. And I'm going to drag and drop set here. We're going to set to be true. And I also want to enable change the rotation behavior of the character. So I'm going to drag and drop the character movement and set orient rotation to movement, and set use controller desired rotation. And I'm going to connect them and duplicate it. I'm going to enable this option on to be turned to true, and this one too. So I'm going to have the control of the character moving like this when I press and hold the right mouse button. So now going back to the event graph, I'm going to get isAiming, promote it to a variable. Compile, save. And going to the default locomotion on the idle, I'm going to blend poses by bool. And I'm going to drag and drop the aiming to the active value here. So if the character is aiming, then we're going to go to the true pose. And now let's drag and drop our idle animation of stealth, which is this one. And make sure it is looping, like mine here. And the turbulent time, I think I'm going to choose 0.5 and false 0.5 as well. I'm going to compile, save, and press play. And when I hold the right mouse button, the character enters the sneak or stealth state on the idle position, on the idle pose. And I also want to do it on the walk run. So I'm going to blend by bool, drag and drop the is aiming, type 0.5 here. And if the character is aiming, then it's going to be true. I'm going to drag and drop my blend space of stealth and drag it to here, and then drag and drop the ground speed. So this is my stealth locomotion. On the horizontal axis, I name to be direction. The minimum is negative 180, maximum 180, grid division is 8. Speed minimum to 0, maximum speed is 210. The grid division is 1. About this maximum axis value here, I chose it to be 210 because it's the minimum walk speed that I have, 210. So it has to match with your current speed of the character, just walking normally. So make sure this value matches with your speed here. And the weight speed is to be the weight speed is going to be 2, and smoothing has to be checked on. Now let's check if it's working. So when I walk and hold the right mouse button, I can walk in the sneak pose. I can walk in the sneak pose, so I can grab the character from behind. So the problem is that I cannot go. The problem is that we don't have the direction. So when I press the A, going to the left side, my character does not align with the direction. So how you can fix that is by going to the animation blueprint and so we're going to drag and drop the velocity, and out of this we're going to calculate the direction. Now we're going to drag and drop the character, get extra rotation, promote this variable, and name it to be direction. So the ground speed. And now we can connect the direction there. Compile, save, and press play. So now when you walk to the sides, then everything is going to work. So I guess that's going to be it for the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye.